Hello, I'm Ben from the Bonehead Podcast, and welcome to the Bonehead Dungeon Bowl Championship. We are taking the Carnage of Blood Bowl and putting it underground in a dungeon. So, this is our Dungeon Bowl Championship. We are taking all 8 colleges of magic from the Dungeon Bowl book and playing them out against each other. Over the course of 7 knockout rounds, we will find out which team is going to be the best and therefore the very first Bonehead Dungeon Bowl Championship champion. So this is round 3, and the way this system is going to work is we are taking the winner of round 1 and round 3 and they'll play together in the semi-final. We're taking the winner of round 2 and the winner of round 4 and they will play together in their semi-final, with the winner of both those semi-finals going through to the final. So we've seen Beast versus Metal. I'm not going to spoil anything here. We've seen Light versus Life. That one would have come out yesterday. Now we're going to be looking at the 3rd round. So we're, halfway through the 1st round here. So this is going to be between the colleges of Fire and Heavens. Now we'll talk about the teams, we'll talk about the coaches, we'll talk about the dungeon, and most importantly, we can't forget to talk about the wizards, being as this is Dungeon Bowl and it's all about wizards. But I have to say, before we move on, 2 things. One, we do have a viewer championship and we will talk about that, but because I made a bit of a controversial error with the first game going out to our patrons, I put the ending, the debrief of this round, in that video like an absolute fool. So basically this video here, we do have a viewer championship where you go in and you guess and we give points, and then at the end of the season we'll give loot. But everybody who comments on this video will get 1 point this round. So there was only 20 or 30 people that saw that episode, but I want to make sure that this is kept as fair as possible. So all you have to do is comment on this video and you will get 1 point for our viewer championship champion. So doesn't matter who you think is going to win. Technically doesn't really matter what you say in the comment. We'll give you a point, but if you could still guess, then it helps us out with some stats basically. So the Fire and Heavens colleges are 2 of the biggest hitters in Dungeon Bowl. We've seen that from Dorset Dungeon Bowl, and we've seen that just from looking at the rosters. So I was really geared up for this round, potentially above all else, because they are 2 Dungeon Bowl powerhouses. So let's have a look at the rosters. Okay, we've got the College of Fire. This has been lovingly painted by Blood Tithe Ben using his fancy airbrush techniques, and it's a really cool team. We've got a bit of everything in here. We've got 2 Dwarf Blitzers. Both of them have been leveled up with Guard. We've got 2 Dwarf Runners to get that kind of movement 6 aspect. They are the fastest players on this team, essentially. We've got 1 Troll Slayer who has been upgraded with Mighty Blow, so that Frenzy, Dauntless, Block, and now Mighty Blow could be pretty impactful when combined with the 2 Guard Dwarf Blitzers, potentially getting 4 die Frenzy blocks. We're going to be looking for that to be a pretty big thing. And with more Guard, we've got 2 Ogre Blockers on this team. This team takes the best bits of the Dwarf team, the best bits of the Ogre team, and puts them together. And those Ogres having Guard are going to allow the Troll Slayer and potentially some of the other players to get some very profitable blocks. And the most important thing there about the Ogres with Guard is you don't have to activate them for Guard to work. Sure, if you bonehead it stops working entirely, but if you don't activate the Ogre, Guard is going to be useful no matter what. 3 Khorne Marauders on this team gets that extra 3 strength 3 frenzy players, which are absolutely massive when combined with 4 Guard players in this dungeon. But also the fact they're movement 6, edge 3+, means that they are really maneuverable. Now the 2 Dwarf Runners are the fastest players on this team until you add in Khorne. So now we've gone up from 2 to 5 movement 6 players, so that's going to give this team a bit of mobility as well. 3 Nobbler Linemen are basically going to be the treasure chest trappers. They're going to go and open up the treasure chest, but also the fact that they are stunty, titchy, dodge, and sidestep, they're just going to be really aggravating, and they're going to be able to get wherever we want them to get. So look for them to potentially be a really underrated scoring threat. Now this college has also got 3 rerolls, including the free reroll from the dungeon from the Dorset Dungeon Bowl rule set. So 13 players, all right, 3 of them are Nobblars, 13 players, 3 rerolls, 2 ogres, and a ton of dwarfs. This team is strong. And on to the College of Heavens. This is the second team that Milton has provided for us. It's beautifully painted. It's made up of a mixed teams sevens team that Milton ran with some extra brute fun lizards in there. So it's a great team, really nicely painted. And the College of Heavens brings a bit of everything to Dungeon Bowl. So this roster here, we've got 2 nobility blitzers. Now that's movement 7, strength 3, block, catch, and one of them has been upgraded with dodge, so pretty fast in the dungeon. We've got 1 human thrower, so the standard human thrower, who has got portal navigator. The whole idea being that actually you can find the ball, and then the human thrower here can use that portal navigator to be able to twice as likely to end up where you want him to go when he's moving in the dungeon. 3 Saurus blockers here, potentially on the light end, but 3 strength 4 Saurus blockers, and all of them have got block as well. So this team is running 2 blitzers with block and 3 Sauruses with block, and is backed up by 5 skink linemen, movement 8, edge 3+ with dodge and stunty. If there is a corner route here, the skink lizardmen are going to find it. Those skinks are so fast in this. We've got 3 heavy hitters, 2 brilliant players in the blitzers, the potentially one of the best throwers in the game with the human thrower, and 5 of those skinks backed up with 4 rerolls. Only 11 players on this roster. The first contingent here, we're looking at actually the blitzers and the Saurus blockers are really strong. The skinks are really fast, but if they can't crack a way to get through the dungeon and beat the College of Fire nice and early, they're going to get potentially melted by the Fire College. Okay, so before we move on and look at the coaches, we should talk about the wizards. So we've got the College of Fire here, which is the Fireball spell. So this is an excellent spell in Blood Bowl, and it's slightly different in Dungeon Bowl, but not by a huge amount. So at the start or end of your opponent's turn, we'll come back to that in a second, pick a square, any square in the dungeon, make a 4+ roll for any player within or adjacent. So a 9-box square, everybody in that area, 4+. Individual roll, get knocked down. If you get that 4+, they're knocked down, you roll for armor, and you get +1 mighty blow to it as well. So this is a complete area of effect thing. Now with this spell, there's kind of 2 ways to use it, and we saw so much of this at Dorset Dungeon Bowl. Start or end of their turn. So as the College of Fire, if you go second, your opponent takes the first turn. At the start of their very first turn, when all 6 of their players are bunched into that end zone, Fireball, and you can really start the game off in a really strong place where half of their team, it's basically you're time walking them, you're just taking an extra turn, or you save it, and you save it for a point at which they've got the ball and you need a save or you need a turnover, and it's such a flexible, excellent spell. We saw a ton of College of Fire being taken by non-college teams at Dorset Dungeon Bowl for a really good reason. This spell can win you the game, and it can save you when the game is almost lost. The College of Heavens spell is not bad either. So the College of Heavens at the start of your turn. Pick a player, any player on your opponent's team, make an armor roll for them using 2d6. Then roll a 3+, regardless of whether that armor works or not. So you pick a dude and you roll armor. If it works, then you roll for injury like normal. If it doesn't work, then they stay standing. Then you roll a dice, and on a 3+, you get to choose another player within 2 squares. That can be any player, that can be one of yours, that can be one of theirs, and you keep rolling. I've put there rinse and repeat. So basically it's arc lightning. You hit this guy, and then on a 3+, you hit this guy, and you can do some chain. Well, it's chain lightning, isn't it? You can chain this effect. You can only hit a player once because lightning apparently only strikes once. But if you've got a group of players, this can be really deadly. So this spell says at the start of your turn. And this is the other kind of board wipe spell that we see in Dungeon Bowl, because the start of your turn. So if the College of Heavens goes first, they can play this at the start of their turn. The College of Fire can also play theirs at the start of your opponent's turn. So we could see a turn 0 double spell attack here, or maybe the colleges, maybe the competitors here will wait and save it, because the College of Heaven spell is a straight up armor roll. So with the Fireball, it's a 4+ to knock them down, but here you go straight to armor. So it's a really interesting one. They're both really powerful. They are obviously both really swingy, as they should be in Blood Bowl. This one can be absolutely filthy. Both of these spells can be huge. So I'm very excited to see at which point these spells get to the pitch. So let's talk coaches. As this is one of Milton's teams, it only seems fair to get Milton onto this pitch again. So Milton joined us for round 1, so game 1, and now he is back for game 3. So I'm going to be running Ben's Colelge of Fire team, and Milton is going to be piloting his own Colelge of Heavens team. Now, I think the Colelge of Heavens team is the exact same build that he went and took to Dorset Dungeon Bowl, because basically we're using exactly the same rules, right? So Milton used this as an opportunity to try out the Colelge of Metal team and to try out his Colelge of Heavens team, and basically the one he enjoyed playing with the most took along to Dorset Dungeon Bowl. So Milton knows what he's doing in a dungeon. He's played a couple of test games, he's played a couple more test games, and by now, although we filmed this beforehand, he's also survived Dorset Dungeon Bowl. So, where are we now? We've talked through the rosters, we've talked through the wizards, we've talked through the coaches. Let's have a very quick look at the dungeon. And as we are in the first round here, before we get to the semi-finals, this will also be played on this dungeon here. So this dungeon is symmetrical. We've got the end zones at either end, and we've got the teleporters and treasure chests spaced out evenly. Now, I love this map because you will get 3 main avenues of attack. It splits up the action. Those teleporters can bring things around, so you can have some action up here, and then all of a sudden you've got basically all of these teleporters are grouped. So there's essentially going to be 3 teleporters near where the action is. If you've got something going on down this corridor here, there are 3 teleporters here. If you've got something going on this end of the map, there are 3 teleporters here as well. So it's designed to keep you in the action. You can gum up these corridors, but there's 4 squares here and 4 squares either side going into each end zone with 3 paths to defend. So it's not like one of those dungeons where there's just 2 squares to go into the end zone. There's 8 in this map with 3 primary corridors. Now, this main hallway, there's nothing in it. There's a couple of treasure chests to the side and there's some teleporters around. It's a really interesting map. You can see a main contingent go straight down the middle, but most of the action is going to be in the sideways, which means this is no man's land, which generally creates a pretty fun experience. So these 2 colleges in this corridor, Colelge of Fire, dwarves, ogres, heavy hitters, we could see them spread out here and make a really good defense and just kind of turtle up, where we've got the Colelge of Heavens, where you've got some pretty good blockers, but you've also got some very, very speedy little skinks as well. So it's going to be a really interesting one. It's not like the Heavens has not got strength. The Heavens has got strength. It's just the Fire College has got more. But, oh man, this is a classic case of bash versus dash, isn't it? The Fire's got the bash, and the Heavens has definitely got the dash. It's going to be a really interesting map. So the other thing to mention is our viewer championship, which we've already talked about very, very, very quickly. If you put a comment in this video, you will get a point for this round. But across all 7 games, we are giving you the opportunity to guess the winner. You will get 1 point per person, per guess that you get. No, this is garbage. Let's try again. And the last thing to touch on is our viewer championship. So we are giving you an opportunity via one of these preview videos each week to guess on who you think is going to win. If you guess it correctly, you will get a point, and at the end of the season, the person with the most points, or the top 20 or so, will win some Bonehead Championship loot. Now, I know I've already prefaced that this round, if you guess a team, whether the team wins or not, you will get a point to make sure that it's really really fair to some of those people who've already seen the outcome, because I made a couple of mistakes in that first game, but there's still 6 rounds apart from that. We're already 2 rounds in now. This is going to be the 3rd one. Everybody joins in, has got a point, and we've got 38 coaches sitting at 2 points right now, and about another 100 sitting at 1 point. So with 5 other rounds to go, there's a ton of time to catch up and take that lead. So I'm not going to spoil round 2. In fact, it is round 2. Yeah, it was round 2. We had life versus life, and 55% chose life there. So it's interesting. I think we saw a 56% election in the first one and a 55% split in this one. So even though you will get a point just for literally putting emoticons in the comments, if you guess a team, it helps us kind of figure out how predictable Dungeon Bowl is going to be. Right. We've looked at the teams, we've looked at the coaches, we've looked at the map, we've looked at the wizards, we've talked through the Viewer Championship. I believe all that's left to do is sign off and wait for a really great game this weekend. At the end of the video, we'll have the full Star Wars scroll of the Viewer Championship as well. But get your comments in now. Let us know who you think is going to win. And I, for one, am very excited to share this game with you. They're two top-tier teams in Dungeon Bowl, and I am so excited. Anyway, I'm going to wrap up now and potentially go and enjoy the sunshine. And we'll be back soon with more Dungeon Bowl content. Happy Dungeoneering. Thanks very much for watching. We really appreciate your support. If you want to help support the channel even further, please like and subscribe, or come join us on our Patreon. We have early access to content, we get loads of feedback from you guys, and we try and do competitions as much as we can. Or you can get yourself some Bonehead Podcast merch on our Spreadshirt site. So if you want to support a team, especially for the Bonehead Championship, you can pick up a shirt, a mug, things like that. It all helps support the channel, and we really appreciate it. Anyway, links below. Thank you very much. Happy blocking.